Hello again YouTube, Mad Dog here. I just thought to do a quick follow-on video regarding the bow drill fire kit. I've had numerous comments on the past video and previous videos where people have said that they find it hard, you know, to get an ember established using this method. So what I thought to do is just a quick, I don't know, tips and tricks, a little bit of advice really, to try and help some people out. So basically I'll cut to it. So my advice, I mean, there's no right and wrong way of doing this, don't take it as gospel, but what works for me. My first piece of advice would be your wood that you choose has got to be 100% dry. If there's any moisture at all, especially in your hearthboard and your spindle, then you're at a disadvantage straight away. You're just making life hard work for yourself. So once you've attained your spindle and hearthboard, if it is a dry sunny day, leave them out there, you know, especially if it's windy. Dry all that moisture out of it before you attempt to use it. Let it cure as long as you can. That would be my first tip, is your wood has got to be absolutely dry. My second piece of advice would be, this is quite controversial, the name suggests bow drill. Now to me that means we're using the spindle to drill into the hearthboard to create the dust, which then becomes a coal through friction. So in my mind that means the hearthboard has to be softer than the spindle. You know, something's got to be sacrificial. Now the survival experts always say that yes, you can use the same wood for the spindle and the hearth, which is true, but in my mind, that because you've got two woods that are equal hardness, you're making hard work for yourself. Why go to that effort when you can use a hard spindle and a soft hearthboard? So that will be my second tip, is hard spindle, soft hearth. And to establish the hardness of wood without being, you know, an expert in tree identification, etc, etc. I mean, you might not even be in your own comfort zone location, country even. So if you're using wood, you know, you've split your wood, just do the simple nail test. Now I've split a log here. If you stick your thumbnail into that and it leaves a mark, which this does, then it's soft enough to make a hearthboard out of. If however you do the thumb test, the thumbnail test, and it leaves absolutely no mark whatsoever, then for me that's too hard for a hearthboard, but will make an ideal spindle. You know, and also don't forget your sensors. You know, for an equal amount of wood approximately, hardwood is usually more dense and heavier than softwood, so you know, use your sensors. I've split this little stick into three just anyhow, just to show you. Again, for me, my nails make nice little grooves into this, dead easy, don't have to press hard. So for me, hearthboard. So that will be another tip or piece of advice that works for me. The hand block or bearing block, you can use a shell, a piece of rock, anything with it that you can form a divot into, or naturally has a divot into, that's going to allow you to apply enough pressure downwards and keep a stable platform whilst rotating the spindle, that's not going to burn at this end. So again, I would normally suggest using a hardwood if you haven't got a form of making a bearing. Put your divot in there, fill it with leaves or ground up slug or whatever you can, just to reduce the friction at the spindle top end. Moving on to the spindle, I always use mine anywhere between a foot and down to about 6 inches. Normally about excuse me, normally around ½ inch in diameter for me works brilliantly. I always have the friction end fat and shallow, and the hand socket end tall and narrow, so that you can apply more pressure with less effort, and there's a smaller surface area so the friction will occur where we want it, at the hearth board end. So that would be a little tip on that, and again, it's got to be bone dry. The actual bow itself, I mean, this is pretty standard information, but it's worth remembering. Should be around armpit to fingertip length, in my opinion. Makes it comfortable to use and manageable, and allows enough stroke to get full range of motion should you want to. And talking of motion, another little tip for me is go nice and steady to start with. Build them coals up. Just drill that hardwood into the softwood till you've got a nice pile of coals. Then go at it to ignite them. Create the heat, create a coal which will grow. Don't go flat out from the offset. You just burn yourself out, and there's no point. There's no need to do that. Don't worry about the perfect position or stance. Do what's right for you and comfortable. I like to get, as you've probably seen, the hand socket rested on my left knee. That gives me stability to control the spindle, but still allows me freedom of movement to use my back and my shoulder muscles to power the drill. So I can use my body weight leaning down to apply the pressure without exerting the triceps and the shoulders too early. So that will be my personal take on it. Like I say, if it works, then it's the right method for you. If it doesn't, no matter if you've read it in a book or not, then it's not the right method for you. So I don't know if any of this is going to help you guys and lasses or not, but please carry on practicing. You know, it's all about practice, practice, practice. You know, and you've got to fail a lot of times before you get that one win, and that one win will be so satisfying when you do eventually get it. So don't give up. Your hearth board, like I say, I'd tend to cut, once I've burnt the divot in, a wider notch at the bottom to allow the coals to build up into the area where the heat's being generated. That's just a personal preference. This has got to be bone dry. If you can, if you're working on a wet floor, raise it. Use more woodage to stand it on. You know, keep your wet boots away from the area where you're going to be, you know, making the friction. Just little common sense things like that all add up to success. So I've rambled on too much. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you find some of this useful. Take care out there. See you soon. Mad Dog signing off. Yeah.